Some people brace for letdown before anything good even begins. It's a quiet reflex they barely notice anymore. You hope for something, then immediately prepare to lose it. The excitement and the flinch arrive at the same moment. Most people call this pessimism, but that word misses the truth. What's happening inside you is far more layered than that. There's a quiet psychology behind why your mind works this way, and once you see it clearly, everything starts to make sense. You're not negative by nature. You're someone who learned early that hope can hurt. So your mind built a system to soften the blow. Expect the worst, and disappointment loses some of its sting. It feels logical, almost protective, but underneath that logic sits a tired, careful heart. You smile when good news arrives, but a smaller voice whispers something else. It says, "Don't get too attached to this." That voice isn't your enemy. It's a younger version of you trying to keep you safe. Somewhere along the way, hope was followed by a sharp letdown, and your nervous system remembered the shape of that pain. Now it scans every situation for early warning signs: a delayed reply, a shift in tone, a small inconsistency. You notice things others overlook completely. Not because you're paranoid, but because you've been quietly trained by experience. This is where the deeper layer begins. Most people miss it because they only see the surface behavior. They think you're guarded, distant, or hard to read. They don't realize you're managing an invisible weight inside. You're not avoiding joy. You're trying to survive the drop that sometimes follows it. Psychology calls this anticipatory disappointment. It's a quiet form of emotional self-protection built over years. The mind decides that controlled pain is safer than surprise pain, so it lowers expectations before the world can lower them for you. It feels rational, even mature, but it slowly shapes how you experience everything around you. You stop fully arriving in moments. Part of you stays behind, watching, waiting for the catch. Imagine getting a message that something wonderful is about to happen. Your first thought isn't celebration, it's suspicion. You wonder what's wrong with it. You search for the hidden cost before allowing yourself to feel happy. This is exhausting, even when nothing is actually going wrong. Your mind works double shifts to protect a heart that already feels enough. And here's what nobody talks about. People who expect disappointment first are usually deeply hopeful underneath. That's the painful irony. Only someone who once believed completely learns to brace this carefully. Cynics don't flinch because they never reached. You flinch because you reach and something important slipped through your hands. So now hope feels like a risk you have to negotiate, not a feeling you can simply enjoy. This shows up everywhere in your life, in relationships, in opportunities, in small daily moments. Someone says they'll call, and you half believe them. You leave room in your mind for them not to. A job offer arrives and you wait for the catch. A compliment lands and you wonder what they really mean. It's not that you don't trust people. It's that you train yourself not to trust outcomes. Outcomes have hurt you before, in ways you didn't fully process, so your mind quietly took over the job of bracing. This is when you start to understand yourself, not as broken, but as someone who adapted to real experiences. Your caution isn't a character flaw. It's evidence that you care deeply about things that didn't always care back. If you've been recognizing yourself in this, drop a comment below. Tell me the first moment you remember bracing for disappointment. Sometimes naming it out loud is where the softening begins. You realize you're not alone inside this quiet pattern. Now, let's go deeper, because the surface only tells part of the story. What lies beneath is where real understanding lies. People who expect disappointment first often grew up reading rooms carefully. You learn to predict moods before they fully arrived. Maybe a parent's tone could shift suddenly. Maybe promises were made and quietly forgotten. Maybe excitement got punished or joy got interrupted. Your young nervous system filed all of this away. It decided that staying alert was safer than staying open, and that decision followed you into adulthood. Now you anticipate emotional weather everywhere you go. You sense tension before it surfaces, distance before it's named. The sensitivity is a gift wrapped in a difficult package. You see clearly, but you also carry more than most. And here's the strange part. You often feel guilty for expecting disappointment. You tell yourself you should be more positive. You wonder why you can't just let things be good. But this isn't a willpower problem. It's a deep learned pattern, and patterns don't dissolve through self-criticism. They soften through understanding. They quiet down when you finally see what they were trying to protect. The truth is, your mind has been working overtime for you. It's been trying to save you from a specific kind of ache. the ache of being blindsided, the ache of believing fully and being wrong. That ache is real, and you felt it, so pretending it doesn't exist would be dishonest. But here's where it gets interesting. Bracing doesn't actually prevent the pain. When disappointment arrives, it still hurts. The bracing just steals the joy that came before it. You pay the emotional price twice, once in advance and once when it actually happens. This is the quiet cost of expecting the worst. You lose the moments that could have been good. And slowly, life starts to feel slightly muted, like you're watching it through soft glass. This is the moment many people start to shift, not by forcing optimism, but by noticing the cost. You begin to ask a different question. Not how do I stop bracing, but what am I protecting? That single question changes everything. It moves you from fighting yourself to understanding yourself. You realize the part of you that braces is young. It's the version of you that didn't have language for what happened. It only had instincts, and those instincts kept you emotionally alive. You don't need to fight that part of you. You need to thank it, and then gently update it. Tell it the danger from before isn't here anymore. Tell it you're an adult who can handle outcomes now. This isn't a quick fix. It's a slow, quiet conversation with yourself. But something changes when you stop seeing the bracing as a flaw. You start seeing it as a story your nervous system is still telling. And stories can be rewritten one small moment at a time, one unguarded second, one honest hope. You don't have to become someone who expects everything to go well. That would be its own kind of denial. You would just have to let some moments stay whole. Let one good thing be good, without the silent flinch. That's the real work, not optimism, but presence. Because people who expect disappointment first aren't lacking faith. They're carrying too much memory. And memory, when honored gently, eventually loosens its grip. It stops running every new situation through old footage. You begin to notice the difference between then and now. You start to feel safer in your own anticipation. The flinch gets smaller. The hope gets a little more room to breathe. You realize you weren't broken, just carefully built by experiences that ask too much, too early. And the awareness you have now is rare. Most people never look this closely at their own patterns. The fact that you're here reading this says something quiet about you. You're already doing the deeper work. So take a moment with this. Where did you first learn that hope was risky? Drop that thought in the comments if it helps. Sometimes saying it once is enough to soften it. If this kind of reflection feels like home, consider subscribing. This channel is built for people who think this deeply. Because you deserve language for the patterns you've carried alone. You deserve to feel understood without having to explain everything. Expecting disappointment first isn't who you are. It's who you became to survive what once felt unbearable. And the moment you see that clearly, something inside you begins to rest. The bracing doesn't have to be your whole story. You can still be careful and still be open. You can still remember the past and still believe in the next moment. Hope, after all, isn't naive. It's just brave enough to risk being wrong again. And maybe that's the quiet courage you've had all along. Not the absence of fear, but the refusal to fully close. So let yourself want things again, slowly. Let some moments arrive without inspection. You've already survived the worst of what taught you to brace. You're allowed to live differently now. The flinch was never your truth. It was just the echo of something old. And echoes eventually fade into silence, leaving room for something softer to finally be heard.